Okay. This lipstick is fucking everything, dude. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chelsea, and here we talk about horror movies, paranormal stories, and all whilst I do my makeup. So if you would, before we start, please hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it, and leave a like if you would like. Today we are talking about Madame Lalaurie, or Delphine Lalaurie, or the Lalaurie Mansion at 1140 Royal Street in New Orleans, Louisiana. I am very excited about this. This has always been very interesting to me. So we're going to do a fun makeup look and get into that. We'll be talking about the mansion, her and what she did, who she was, and a little bit about how the mansion, what happened to it throughout the years. So let's get into it. Alright, we have our hair pulled back with our little skeleton hands. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but it is pouring down rain right now. So much rain. I do love the rain. I actually have a window over here open. Wow, like I can see out of it. And one of the cats are sleeping in front of it. So cute. And the other one is down here by my feet, Luna, who made a little fun appearance in the beginning of my last video. She's so cute. Love her to death. So let's get into this. I'm actually not doing a white foundation today. I am using the NYX Bear With Me Tinted Skin Veil. I think this is just light. Pale light. This is pale light. And I'll be using the NYX Bear With Me Primer. I love this. It's such a good deal for like how much you get. Like this will last me like forever. So, Delphine Lalaurie was actually born Mary Delphine McCarty back in 1787. She was born on March 19th, 1787 in New Orleans, I believe. And she was actually born into like a very rich, wealthy family. She was a white woman, and she got married 3 different times. The first 2 died in different ways, and though I don't even think actually that a lot of people blame her for them. I thought some people might think that like because she's such a bad person that they died for whatever reasons, but a lot of people say it was just bad luck on her part, and plus it was like the 1700s, so like people are always dying from all kinds of crazy things. So she married her 3rd husband, who was a doctor, and I believe they met because one of her daughters from her previous marriage actually had like a spine issue. She had like deformities, and so that's how she met him, and then she got pregnant by him, so they had to get married because it's the 1700s and that's just what you do. So they went and built this mansion at 1140 Royal Street. They built a 3-story mansion. She was very well known for like throwing parties. They said that she was a great hostess, that she was a great person to obviously other rich white people, and that a lot of people actually really liked her. And it wasn't until on April 10th, 1834. I can't remember these dates, so I have to look them up. That is the day that her mansion, their mansion, caught on fire. Now, it was said to believe, I've read some different, obviously this was from the 1800s, early 1800s, so I've read some contradicting things. I will leave some articles below, and there's one article that I read the whole thing. A lot of information is coming from the article, to be honest. It's a great article if you want to go read it. Hi, Loon. So back on April 10th, 1834, a slave that was chained to the freaking stove. Reading this actually makes me so angry, like a lot of it, which I'm sure it makes a lot of people angry. Like it's just, ugh. I mean, it's like reading about any kind of like serial killer or whatever. I mean, sometimes this stuff just like actually makes you mad. It's like, what the fuck? This woman, she was chained to a stove, and it's believed that she caused the fire on purpose to basically like to help escape, or at least basically let someone know that, like, hey, these people are in here, because everyone thought that Delphine was literally like just the nicest person and she just had the grandest parties and da 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 da, and it's like, actually she's in here straight up torturing people, and she's a menace to society. Like, she's a terrible human being. And even though well, we'll go into that. So basically, this woman starts a fire. It erupts into a pretty big fire in this mansion, and the firefighters are called. Like, people are running out of, like, their houses nearby to, like, see what's going on, because a lot of people knew her. She's a very rich white lady, whatever, everyone knows her. So as the firefighters go in, they go up to the 3rd floor. They go up to all the floors to put out the fire, and they go up to the 3rd floor. And I guess she actually didn't want them in there, because that's where the slaves' quarters were. And so they go up there, and there are people chained to the freaking walls. There are people that have, like, broken bones. There was blood on the ground, and it was, like, sticky. There was like old blood and new blood. And there were 8 people, I believe, that were being tortured and mutilated in some ways. And I would say that some of the things I read said that though the firefighters and everyone can agree that there were people that were definitely being tortured and not being fed and were being basically almost like left to die, that some of the more crazy things that we hear, I read that there was a guy who, let me just, while I'm talking, that there was a guy who actually had a hole in his brain with a spoon in it to, like, stir his brains. I also read that there was a woman whose bones were broken so many times and just like healed that way, that she actually resembled more of like a crab. I'm like, that is so insane. Like, I just cannot even imagine, like, who does that? But some of the things were saying that, like, yes, they were tortured, but some of these stories were fabricated. But I've read the same types of stories in multiple places, so they seem to be somewhat real, but also, you know, the crazier stories definitely get passed around more and maybe even retold different ways, because those kind of stories are just more interesting. So she was definitely torturing people, definitely a serial killer, but some of the crazier stories are kind of like, because I guess one of the neighbors actually had a huge crush on Madame Lalaurie, and I hope I'm saying her name right. So they said that he had a huge crush on her, but she was married and she, like, was not into him. And he actually was one of the ones that gave a lot of the accounts of, like, the more crazy things. So it's said that, like, he could have just been lying because of, like, a revenge thing. But regardless, she still was a monster. Like, she still did a lot of these heinous crimes. I mean, even chaining someone up to a freaking, like, stove. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? I mean, I get it was, like, a different time, whatever. But even then, it's like, who does that? It's just insane to me. Oh, and then there was at one point before the fire that I want to talk about where her, it actually got out where some of the people in, like, the neighborhood, like her neighbors and stuff, would see that she was being kind of extra mean to her slaves, more so than other people, I guess. And so they had a lawyer of some sort go in, and she actually had her slaves taken away from her because she was so mean to them. But they obviously, they must not have seen, like, the torture and stuff. So they took all of her slaves away and were auctioning them off to other people. This stuff just makes me sick to my stomach. But she actually coerced, like, a family member of hers that lived in town to go to the auction and buy all of her slaves back to be returned to her. I'm like, I could not even imagine. Like, you're already in, like, the shittiest situation. Like, you literally don't even have a say over your own body, and then you get out of this one bad situation. You're probably gonna go into another bad situation, but, like, hopefully not a serial killer. And then you get bought by somebody just to be returned to the freaking serial killer. Like, I cannot even imagine, like, how terrified these people were. It's just so crazy. Some people were saying Lalaurie, but Lalaurie, maybe it is Lalaurie. I just like Lalaurie more. I mean, I guess the IE, it makes more sense to say Lalaurie, Madame Lalaurie, but I always hear people say Madame Lalaurie. I don't know if we're gonna go with Lalaurie. I think it might be more of a French thing. actually has its own scene and own character in American Horror Story Coven, which is such a great season. And it is played by, let me look it up real quick. Oh, Kathy Bates. I can't remember her name, but I love Kathy Bates. So she was actually played by Kathy Bates, and Kathy Bates did such a good job. Oh my gosh, she did such a good job playing her. And that was such a good season. And I kind of like, it kind of exaggerated a little bit. It's a, you know, it's a movie or a show, but it was pretty much like spot on. It had, I'm not to give it away. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I guess I'm gonna give away a little bit of spoilers, but it basically had Kathy Bates playing Lalaurie, Madame Lalaurie, whatever, and she had like her daughters there, and it had like this, they were in this nice big mansion, and they had like this huge party going on because that's what she was known for, being a great hostess, these great parties. And so it really did like set the scene of the characters, her being like this rich woman who basically had like two sides. Like the one side was like where her friends and family saw, and then the other side was like more so what the slaves and her kids saw. And in real life, I don't know if she was like mean to her kids or not. It seemed like she was more of like, it seemed like she was very racist. Back in the day, basically slaves like, yeah, I mean, they were like, yeah, don't be like too mean to them, but like, you own these human beings. So it was much easier for serial killers to just do whatever they want because no one missed them, no one really cared. Unfortunately, it was like, I mean, if you know, you kill your cat or dog and bury them in the backyard, like, no one's gonna ask questions. It's terrible, but that's just how it was, I guess. And so I think she just took all of her anger and frustration and serial killer tendencies out on her slaves, which is, like, insane. But they did a really good portraying her. So in the movie though, it shows like pretty graphic, which I mean, it's American Horror Story. It's a horror like show, and it's really well done, but a pretty graphic take of like what it looked like. But in American Horror Story, it shows where she takes one of them to the upstairs or wherever their like dungeon was, basically. That's what I would call it. And she like chains him up, and as she's chaining him up, she's walking past all these people that she like tortured and mutilated and all these crazy things. There's like a woman with like a sewed up mouth and I think eyes, and a person with like holes in their head or something. It's like really crazy, all the different things, and it shows like this just sad, depraved room. And that is exactly what I get from reading like how Madame Lalaurie really was. Like, she just seemed like she was just a freaking psychopath, and maybe that's how she was so calm and nice to everybody, which is like what a lot of people say. I mean, not all serial killers, but a lot of serial killers, their families really don't know because they're actually like the nicest person in the family setting because they take all their rage and anger out on people. So it's like they're out here literally murdering, torturing, doing all these things to people that when they come home, it's like all they have are good vibes for the family. So the family's like, oh, my dad's like the best person to me. And it's like, it's because he's literally out here taking out all of his anger and hate and whatever on these people. So when he comes home, it's like all good vibes. So that's probably, I just spit. That's probably why she was able to kind of hide how she was and who she was for so long, I would imagine. But it's just kind of, that stuff's so interesting to me, honestly. So once the fire started and the firefighters arrived, they found a 70-year-old woman, a slave that was shackled or chained or whatever to the stove, and she actually started the fire to either save herself, kill herself, whatever. It was better than whatever Delphine was doing to them because she was a sadist and just a straight up serial killer. And that woman actually led the rescuers, firefighters, whatever you want to call them, up to the attic where they found 7 more slaves that were being tortured. They were being starved. They were chained to the walls. Some of them had like spikes that were like going into their neck so they could not move, I believe. There were different stories that surrounded these slaves and like things that people saw. So it was pretty horrific. And once they started bringing people out of the house, the neighbors, oh my gosh, I saw like, I don't know, like flickering. the like neighbors and the surrounding people saw the condition that these people were in. Even though they were slaves, they were still people, and they were actually pissed. They were so mad that they were wanting to, I think, actually hurt Delphine. And I believe her husband was still with her. I have read two accounts, one saying that he left and that's what like drove her crazy, and then one saying that he was still there, and some even saying that he was either actually the person that was harming them, which a lot of accounts saying that was her, and then also that he was also doing like some scientific, it wasn't even research, it was just torture, but they were like on operating tables, and that he was performing like different procedures on them. So really it could have been both of them, but she was definitely the one that was like the craziest, I guess, and the one that's more well known. So everyone was pissed, and they were literally trying to get at her, and unfortunately she did escape. And I read that they went from New Orleans to New York, and then they actually ended up in Paris. And that's where she lived out her days until she died. So the slaves, they got help. I don't know what happened to them after that. Hopefully they were free and lived a happy life. But as being, you know, a black person, African American in America, especially back in the 1800s, probably wasn't the best life. Sorry to all of them. Literally, that's like the worst thing. I cannot imagine. That's so crazy. But that 70-year-old woman is a freaking queen. Like, she is amazing. What a beautiful, amazing person to 70 years old. That's crazy. I mean, she like literally freed all these people and stopped probably hundreds of other people from dying. So one thing I forgot to mention, why the slaves were taken away beforehand, is there was actually a young girl who was a slave there. I hate saying like that word, but she was a slave there at that household as well, to Delphine and her husband. And the girl, I'm not sure exactly what she did, but she made her mad. Oh, I think she was brushing her hair and she got like a snag. And because like hair has knots, like fucking happens, bitch. And Delphine was so pissed that she ran after her with a whip, supposedly, and was trying to whip her. And the girl was running away from her because, like, you don't want to be whipped because that shit would fucking hurt. And she ran out onto a balcony, and I guess she lost her footing and fell off and died. So after that, obviously it's a very public thing, like this little girl is like dead in the street, basically. So that's when a lawyer was finally called, went in, checked out the situation, was like, you're literally a terrible fucking person. We're taking your slaves away from you. And then she had her family buy them back, return them, sneak them back into her mansion, and people didn't really care because they literally thought of slaves as like lesser than whatever. So it's terrible, it's sad, but that is how that happened. I forgot to add her in there, and she was such a key role. Like her, that little girl, and that 70-year-old woman are such key roles in this whole situation. It's just so crazy how like one person's actions can cause such a ripple effect in other people's lives. So I don't know, I just wanted to add that because I kind of forgot to add that in there. So she escapes into Paris, and these people, this big group, this mob, they are tearing down, they are tearing down this house. They went in and they basically took all of her shit. They robbed her. They went through, they were tearing down the walls, tearing down just anything and everything they could, because they were like, you know, fuck this lady, like she's a terrible person, which she definitely is. And that's basically the story of Delphine Lalaurie and her mansion. So let's go into kind of like the 1140 Royal Street mansion, or the Lalaurie Mansion, whatever you want to call it, throughout the years, because it's kind of interesting, some of the different things it's been, and it's always been kind of reported haunted. And to this day you can actually go do tours, not necessarily in the building, but like around the building, because Louisiana, or New Orleans I should say, is such an interesting paranormal place. Like, I hope to visit this place very soon, do these tours and do all these things. I have so many different stories I want to do about New Orleans. Anyway, I digress. So let's talk more about this mansion in time. So in 1894, in the same mansion, the Lalaurie Mansion as people call it, there was a tenant who actually was murdered there. And they found that his apartment, because this mansion was made into like kind of an apartment complex, and he was murdered and his apartment was found in disarray, but they didn't actually find, so the cops assumed that it was like a robbery, but they never actually found that anything worth any money or any value was actually missing from the apartment. And I guess it was just like a few days prior to, the man who was murdered actually told a friend of his that he was having problems with spirits in his place, in his apartment, and his friend kind of just wrote it off as like, you know, whatever, dude. Like, you're just pulling my leg or whatever. You're just like seeing things. And the cops actually talked to this friend and were talking to neighbors to see if there was like anyone that would want to steal things or want to murder him or hurt him or whatever. And so this guy told them about the spirits that he said that he was seeing. So the friend actually said that one of the, I don't know if it's one of the last things he told him, but he did say recently that the guy who was murdered actually thought that there was a demon in his house, his apartment, whatever, and that the demon would not leave him alone until he met his end, which he was murdered, so he did. And there was just a lot of paranormal activity and things like that that were brought up. Not necessarily people that were, other people that were murdered like that, but it is kind of crazy that he was saying literally that there was a demon trying to kill him, and then that happened. And I kind of was, when I was reading that, I was kind of thinking, like, from what I read, Madame Lalaurie seemed, you know, like she wasn't like this until all of a sudden, but then again, you never really know until it's like found. So she could have been this sadistic crazy person this whole time, or whatever mental thing or disease or whatever could have sparked this, caused this, whatever, or like trauma in her life could have caused this to happen for her to start lashing out the way she did and become a straight up serial killer. But if you want to take it to more of like a paranormal side, it's kind of interesting to think like maybe there is a demon that resides in this house and took over her or made her think all these crazy things. Not that I'm trying to deflect her, like, you know, like trying to make her like not responsible, because she obviously is. But just kind of like the paranormal aspect, conspiracy theorist in me wants to be like, maybe there is something that caused her to do that, to all of a sudden become this like literal monster and hurt these people, torture these people, do all these crazy things. And then, you know, however many years later, this man is living in this apartment, also thinks that there's a demon, not that she ever said there was a demon, that he thinks there's like a demon there that wants to kill him, and he ends up being murdered. Obviously someone had to have murdered him. And then, so it's almost like maybe it was another neighbor who the demon was like talking to and wanted him to murder him. Who knows? There's so many different like ways this could go. So that's kind of interesting to me. I'm doing this very fun like goth look, and I'm kind of here for it. Though my eyeliner was not wanting to cooperate a minute ago. Now I'm gonna take some black underneath my eye, just like the middle and out. So also in the late 1800s, they actually also turned the mansion into an all, well, at first it was one of the first, or few I should say, mixed schools where all children of all colors, black, white, whatever, could attend. And that did not last long until it just turned into an all-girls school for only African Americans, only little black girls. They were like primary school, so it was like elementary kids. And that right there is just so like, of all the things you could put there, you're gonna make it not only a school for children, but then for black children. And it's like, when black people were literally tortured and murdered in this building, which I guess back then they were pretty much tortured and murdered in every building, so I guess that's just like how it was, which is so crazy. But when I read that, I was like, can you talk about like trauma? Like, are you kidding me? It's so crazy. But they actually had many children that would literally walk up to their teachers bawling, like tears coming down their face, and with like their sleeves pulled up, and there was like actual like physical marks of like being grabbed and scratched, and they would say like the lady did it, the mean lady did it. And a lot of people kind of thought, like, maybe not back in the day, but definitely nowadays, a lot of people think it was like the ghost of Lalaurie or whatever, of Delphine Lalaurie. Yeah, I keep thinking that I'm getting Lalaurie and La Llorona mixed up, but I am only saying Lalaurie. But obviously dealt with Delphine. But a lot of people think it was the ghost of Delphine, even though she died in Paris and not in New Orleans. But I don't know. I think it's really interesting though that they said that, but also they could have just been being abused by somebody else and them just being like, oh, it must be a spirit, it must not be a real person. And it's like, they're probably actually being abused by a real adult or another kid or something. But who's gonna look into it? Probably no one, because no one gives a fuck about people. I forgot to put in my contour. I'm trying for like a very light, natural goth look. So I guess also in the late 1800s, it never stayed, the mansion never stayed like one thing for a long time. So it was an all-girls school for a little while. It was actually turned into like a kind of like a dance studio thing for a while, for people to learn dance, mainly young girls. So then after that, it was the apartment complex. I believe it was the apartment complex that the guy was murdered in. And there was a lot of strange occurrences. A lot of people said that they saw a different kind of ghost and were attacked by different kind of spirits that would like go after them and then just like vanish, disappear. A lot of people did not stay, even though the rent was like super cheap. They were like, nah, I'm good. I'd rather go somewhere else, pay more money, because like this place is terrifying, which kind of tells you a lot right there. And those did not last long. So then in the 1900s, the mansion actually became a furniture store, and I believe also like a salon. I don't know if the salon... Oh, saloon. I said a salon. So it was a furniture store and a saloon, not a salon. And the saloon actually like did pretty well for a little while, and the furniture store did not. And actually the guy who owned the furniture store said that he would often come in the next morning and find his furniture moved and even sometimes covered in like a smelly substance, and there would be no signs of anyone coming or going. And kind of like from like keen observations here, if you're right next to like a saloon and there's probably people in there that are probably drunks or just drunk or whatever, maybe that smelly substance has something to do with those people somehow getting over in your place where you don't have cameras yet, and that's not a thing. So as much as I don't want to kill the spooky vibe here, that probably has a little, those two things are probably connected. Like, let's be a little rational here. But so then after that, I guess it was actually those two things were closed down in a matter of years, and then it was turned into apartment complexes again, but this time for more wealthy people, and they also had very many like paranormal sightings and just feeling spooky and weird. But at this point, I mean, things have been around so long, it's like, are you really seeing it, or do you think you see it because you know how the place is supposedly supposed to be, you know? Like, you know it's haunted or supposed to be haunted. So, not saying that they didn't, because there obviously was a lot of weird stuff going on, and the fact that no one could even keep anything there very long is kind of crazy in itself, especially when it's in such a good location, as I read. Cute. I really like this look. Cute. Now we're gonna do lipstick. So then once there was an apartment complex, then it turned into, this place just keeps going. Then it started, it went back to like a one family housing, and it's actually been bought by a lot of just rich people, because it is a mansion, with a huge backstory at that. So it's turned into just like a single family home for a lot of rich people that kind of, I feel like they just buy just to own it. And even Nicolas Cage, I think he bought it around, I saw that he both bought it and sold it in 2009, but he did own it for a little while. He never lived in it, he just owned it. I think that's how a lot of them were. I think they just owned it for like, because it's cool. Right now, I believe it's owned by some rich person that lives in Texas. And you're not even allowed to go in it or tour it. And a lot of people that have owned it have actually had like priests come in and like bless it and things like that, because some people do really think that there is like either just a lot of spiritual energy or an actual demon that resides in there. So that's all really interesting. Okay, and this lipstick, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I'm gonna do black on the outside, and I'm doing a little bit of red and a little bit of this like dark brown color on the inside. I'm just gonna put all of it on, blend it all in, and that'll be our finished product. Now we do some black. Do you also like literally quit breathing when you're putting on lipstick? Cause same. Okay, this looks so cute. Very subtle, very cute. I'm here for it. Okay guys, so this is the finished look. I have my little sword earrings. Love them so much, so cute. That is all I have for Delphine Lalaurie and her very haunted mansion. If you want to, definitely go check out the links below. I'm going to link some of the different articles I got some of my information from. Some of it is kind of contradictive. This happened back in the 1800s, so you know, sometimes a lot of things are hearsay, and if you ever played the game Telephone, then you understand how these things happen. Alright guys, let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know if there is anything I got wrong or any stories you'd like to add about this, or maybe you're just excited that this was like a cool thing, or maybe you like my makeup. Let me know if you like my makeup, because I think it's actually really cute. I'm gonna go do some TikToks, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Go follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all the things. I have a Facebook page if you're a Facebooker. So see you guys in the next one. Peace out.